after watching the S&P 500 for years, when sentiment is where it is now, that's usually a time to be buying. Technically, Bitcoin has never topped. So when you say, has it topped? Could it go down another 10, 15, 20%? Sure. Not only will we get rid of that topping side, but then I'll never have to hear about the 4-year cycle again. I'll never have to hear about all these things that people believe are going to happen. This is happening. This is just happening. So think of it as the two systems are merging, meaning the fiat banking system is finally merging with digital money. The beauty of gold is that it's very similar to Bitcoin in one aspect. There is no reason for people to buy gold other than a story. At some point, whether it's France, Argentina, all these places, they're going to be in that position that if there's a run on the country, which I think there will be, I think we will have runs on countries the same way we had a run on Silicon Valley Bank.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today I'm here with one of the most requested guests ever. Jordi, it's great to have you back. How you doing today?
I'm great, Mauricio. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Last time we spoke was around April and Bitcoin was trading more or less in the 90,000 region. Are you buying now? And if yes, why are you doing so?
I buy every week, Mauricio. So nothing has changed. And if it goes down more, I usually double up and buy more then. So yes, I'm buying.
I 100% agree with you. DCA is the best strategy I also have, because if you're married to a price, Bitcoin likes to punish that type of people, right? But the market seems in full panic. Who do you think is selling Bitcoin at the moment? Guys, exciting news. December 8th and 9th, I will be attending the Bitcoin conference in Abu Dhabi. If you're coming, please stop me, say hello, let's connect in real life. In the box down below, you'll find a 10% voucher. Use it, get your ticket before it's too late. By the way, if you're enjoying my content, it will mean a lot if you could help me by subscribing to the channel and push the like button to support my journey. Thank you.
Based on what I've heard and read from on-chain analytics and various people that have been speaking publicly that have both had the orders, but then people that I talk to with inside the industry. I mean, it seems like there's the selling has been primarily due to people that have been in Bitcoin for a long time. It started, it seems, right after the beginning of the summer in the United States. So after May, started showing up, and it's persisted really for July, for August, for September, for October. And regardless of who it is, these are large orders. Clearly, it's been very orderly. It's been the type of thing that has not been sloppy. So, for people that are panicked, in my days of running a bunch of trading businesses and following traditional finance markets, if someone's really worried about something, they just say, get me out at any price. That has not been the situation, other than the little times where it seems like retail gets over their skis after a new all-time high. We get a news announcement and everything turns the other direction. It wipes out the leverage. I think this has mainly to do with people that have been in Bitcoin for a long time. The good thing is, if you've got one seller who has accumulated billions of dollars of Bitcoin and they're selling it, it's not being bought by one buyer. It's being bought by hundreds, if not thousands of buyers, retail. So you're getting a transfer from concentrated holding, which I think is one of the downsides of Bitcoin, is that a lot of people that bought into it very early and put a lot of money into it, they have a lot of wealth in it. So you'd like to see the decentralization of the ownership. And I think we're seeing some of that. That's my own personal belief.
Like you pointed out, nobody talks about the buying there is, right? Because some OG whales have been offloading indeed a huge amount of Bitcoin, but there has been a humongous amount of buying there. The sentiment is so bad in my channel, and people in the comments are saying, 126 was the top, and now we're going down to 25,000. I don't even know where they're finding these numbers, but have we topped? What do you think? And if so, does it matter actually?
Technically, Bitcoin has never topped. So when you say, has it topped, could it go down another 10, 15, 20%? Sure. As someone who's traded markets for a long time, you have to embrace the down moves and start to view them as opportunities. If you believe that the long term, as I do, that it's going to be substantially higher and that we're just entering the early phase of the network effects of the digital economy and digital assets, which I do believe, I'd rather have it fall right now, than go higher. I'm not going anywhere. And I believe that this is a structural change that if anything, this year has been accelerated due to the deregulation that's happening. There's more good news to come on that from the clarity. But I could not have envisioned the amount of stablecoin adoption that is now not only happening but will happen in the future. And every week we get another announcement from either a company, from a platform, from whatever that is saying that they're moving to stable coins. And this week it was Zelle. And I think Zelle is a probably the most important news story that happened this month for Bitcoin. But those types of things aren't going to change the dynamic of making it go up higher now. After watching the S&P 500 for years, when sentiment is where it is now, that's usually a time to be buying. I think there may be one more kind of flush out in the short term, possibly. I don't really care, and I have bids underneath. But I do think one thing that I've learned in talking to people and just realizing maybe some of the differences is that in 2022, that period of crypto where the market collapsed, there was fraud, there were bankruptcies, then there was heavy regulation. There's an overhang that still exists clearly. Altcoins are still significantly below their high prices back then. Ethereum has attempted to get through the highs of back then. Bitcoin's the only one that has. And the problem is it's very hard for Bitcoin to go up without the rest of the ecosystem going up. Because if this is a positive time for the ecosystem, it's actually more positive for the ecosystem than it is for Bitcoin. Meaning, I think the innovation and the expansion of the financial guardrails as they get more involved across the globe, it should benefit the ecosystem a lot. And so as long as the altcoins are still showing this overhang and supply, that says to me this reminds me a lot of the post-dot-com bubble period where it took a while for the internet build out, which was clearly very bubblish. Same thing as what happened in crypto. My son had turned $700 into 80,000. He was 13 years old. That kind of stuff needs to be taken out. And I think a new bubble time is coming up over the course of the next few years. And if we can make new all-time highs again anytime within the next few months, not only will we get rid of that topping side, but then I'll never have to hear about the 4-year cycle again. I'll never have to hear about all these things that people believe are going to happen. I just think we're recycling some of the old historical beliefs that people have with new beliefs. And the most important thing for everyone is that Bitcoin, stablecoins, Ethereum, the entire network effects ecosystem that people had dreamed about, that part is all in place and the regulations are coming down. So I expect the next few years to be great.
I couldn't agree more on the stablecoin. Where do you see banks going then? Are they going to become like some sort of a hybrid like exchange into banks? Because I'm sure they are going to allow users soonish to transact with stablecoin. Do you see them becoming some sort of an exchange or maybe a mesh between the two?
Well, that's why the Zelle news is so important. I mean, Zelle is used by so many people globally, and this is basically a transfer system, which now means that anyone that is going to transfer will be able to do it in the cheapest form, which will be stablecoins. This is happening. This is just happening. So think of it as the two systems are merging, meaning the fiat banking system is finally merging with digital money. This has been a dream of people in the space since the Bitcoin white paper was originally written and published. So everyone should be excited that something like Zelle, which will speed up the process, meaning you'll be able to just do this seamlessly. So one of my biggest fears was how easy will the adoption happen for the wealthiest people on the planet. The poorer people we know are very comfortable using stable coins and going through this because they have, as Michael Saylor says, they don't have much to lose. But for the people that have the majority of the money on the planet, the OG whales inside the fiat system, they're more reluctant to ever get a wallet because they don't need to. Well, now what you're saying is you're going to have a wallet because if you transfer or wire money in Zelle, you're immediately going to be able to do it in stable coins. And this is the way this is going to be done. So it will replace all of the things, Western Union, everything that people have thought about. We're basically going to merge the two systems without having to tell people to get off of them. And that's pretty much what happened with the smartphone, is that once people got rid of their old phones, their dumb phones, and they got rid of their Blackberries, and they ended up on the iPhone, it may not have been an easy transition. They may have been scared about all their information because that was a fear back then. But then once it happened, they didn't care anymore. So this is going to be a much more seamless transition than what people realize. So your question, it's already happening.
It's such a good point because I remember in 2007 when the iPhone came out, I was a web designer back then. I've seen myself internet popping up, right? In the beginning, nobody wanted the iPhone. The most downloaded app was the beer glass, which was doing absolutely nothing. It was mimicking us drinking a beer. So we needed to have the Apple Store before the adoption came through. So, like you were saying, I completely agree. We are waiting for those corporations to start providing services, start paying yield, like traditional finance mashing into this crypto universe before we see some sort of a return into this. And maybe that will be enough for retail. I mean, do you think that will push retail to maybe start considering investing in Bitcoin, for example, because they will have accessible stable coins under their balance?
Yes, this you know, I've tried to give analogies that people can understand, but the fiat system is a casino in Las Vegas that's been around for 150 years. It's old, it's decrepit, it has rats running through it. Costs lots of money just to enter. You have to pay for your drinks, and then across the street is this shiny new digital casino that has the young people, and they've already gone over there, but everyone likes to stick with what they know. So they keep going to this casino because they have memories of it. It's this nostalgic thing. But then once they set foot in the new casino, they don't go back to the old casino. I have yet to meet a single person that has ever put money in the digital space that then has taken it out. So I think that this is the beginning of merging something like Zelle to where it's on your phone. The next step is the majority of people, across the globe, they order things now and have it delivered to their house. The way that they do that is they go do a search thing in Amazon. You're not going to have to do that in the future. You'll have an AI agent and you just say, I need to go buy X. It'll go out, it'll do all the sourcing for you. If it has any questions for you, it'll ask you the questions, and then it'll go out and it'll do the entire transaction for you. It'll go into your wallet, it'll pay the price, it'll come. That means that AI agents will be spinning up transactions. So the volumes that will be happening in stable coins, because of the fact that Zelle and the coin, they're just going to be the way that we transact money. It'll happen overnight, just like AI agents will happen. We will be doing trillions of dollars of actions within the next few years inside stable coins. Now, we already do trillions of dollars of volume, but this is going to leave the money with inside the space because you're now going to have stable coins. Are you really going to transfer your stable coins back into physical hard dollars? No, just like no one really owns any dollars as it is. They have money in a bank. They're already doing digital banking. It's just they assume it's there. So with all that money there, then tokenization will come up, and that'll start next year. And once tokenization becomes normal, then people will pick the asset that makes the most sense. And so when Bitcoin is the same as Apple, meaning they're both transacted in the exact same spot and you can do it on your phone, people will start picking the asset that is performing the best. And Bitcoin will be part of everyone's portfolio. The reason it's not part of everyone's portfolio now is because they don't have faith in that system. When it becomes a system that the fiat system is now tokenized, everything will be on chain, and then Bitcoin will be part of it. So people have to realize that this is about merging two systems. The digital economy doesn't replace the fiat system. They merge together, and then gradually over time, through both demographics and through adoption, it eventually ends up that all of the money ends up going to the place that makes the smartest decision. And the smartest decision, as we all know, is Bitcoin has outperformed all assets except for NVIDIA over the course of whatever time period you want.
We've seen gold going bananas, first asset reaching $30 trillion. And by the way, fun fact, in the past 2 weeks, gold has lost the entire market cap of Bitcoin, just to highlight how tiny Bitcoin is, because Bitcoin is hovering around $2 trillion. And whenever we've seen gold going parabolic, well, Bitcoin catches up. So are you expecting these kind of gap to be filled by Bitcoin moving forward, maybe towards the end of the year or next year?
Yes, but again, I view these as what should Bitcoin's valuation be relative to all assets. So whether it's gold or stocks or bonds, it doesn't really matter to me. It's just a question of how long it takes. And that's, if we learned anything from gold, we live in a world where even gold can trade with momentum. Even gold can trade on a narrative. The beauty of gold is that it's very similar to Bitcoin in one aspect. There is no reason for people to buy gold other than a story. You can't go to the bank and you can't transact with it. You're not going to carry the gold bars around. Yes, you can carry little coins, but try to go into a coffee place and give them gold and go through this. So gold is a narrative. It's something when people get really scared And this was a year that the entire framework of the global trade system, capital flows, everything was disrupted. We shook the entire global economy. We just had a truce between Xi and Trump for a year. Theoretically, if that holds, I think gold will have trouble going higher for the foreseeable future. I don't think there's a reason for the narrative to play out relative to Bitcoin. If there's a debasement trade, you'd rather have Bitcoin because you'd rather have something that is going higher that's benefiting from the network effect. So I'm going to just leave it as if this was a year for gold because mainly of the China US thing, and the China US thing and the way the world is going to be has now simmered down, then the focus will shift back towards the attention of artificial intelligence and all the benefits that have come from that, and the fact that AI agents are coming. And the inequality problem is still there. We don't have a recession. We don't have people losing jobs, but we do have people feeling left out in the economy. That is a very different thing than buying gold because there's hyperinflation or because the central banks are fighting with each other or because World War III is going to start. We've kind of gotten rid of all of that over the course of the last 3 months. The Middle East has a peace plan. We'll see what happens with Russia and Ukraine now that China and the US have signed an agreement. At the end, I think all the reasons that people were buying gold made sense for this year. They don't make sense going forward. And I think for Bitcoin, all the things that make sense will make sense going forward, which is really the fact that people are doing okay, but younger people are not participating in the fiat system and they're looking for a new system. And I think that is going to spread next year.
You touched on the 4-year cycle. I'm with you, by the way. I don't think they're relevant any longer. I think liquidity, on the other hand, is going to drive the market moving forward. And that could be potentially a reason for Bitcoin to go further up.
Bitcoin should be going up regardless. All of these things that people have come to believe are just not true, meaning the economy has been weakening since software started to disrupt labor. Labor continues to be disrupted, profit margins are growing, so the capital side of the equation is doing well. The government is basically growing transfer payments. Income growth in the US is 1.5%, which is below inflation if you exclude transfer payments, which are growing at close to 9%. Transfer payments are handouts from the government. Again, younger people don't get this. This is mainly Social Security. This is just not money that is handed out. So younger people have to get money from their parents who have made money, who are getting the transfer payments. Whatever the case is, it is a dysfunctional situation that is driven by the excesses, the acceleration of technology. So I'm someone that doesn't believe in the 4-year cycle, mainly because I don't believe in anything that only has 3 historical data points. And in this case, you're talking about 2 historical data points because the first 4-year cycle I don't even care about. So people have created this myth, just like they create who's Satoshi. Everyone has a myth in crypto. Everyone has a myth also in the fiat system. I believe that Jerome Powell is going to need to cut rates. They're going to have to do something in terms of making sure that liquidity stays stable. And the reason is because we have a K-shaped economy in the US. And the reason we have a K-shaped economy is because inequality has been rising. We've had a concentration of wealth. We've had a destruction of the middle class. And that only worsens with artificial intelligence, which is the most disruptive and deflationary force to ever exist to replace cognitive and physical labor. And that's all coming in the next few years, which means people are going to get angrier. And at some point, the government will have to make sure that those voters are getting taken care of. So even if the Fed doesn't print next year, I fully expect Donald Trump to hand out checks that are very, very valuable to people. I expect him to do things to help, again, people that are paid on tips, whatever the case is. We do not have an economy in the US. And since the US is the most important place globally because the dollar is still the reserve currency, what happens to the dollar has a huge impact on Bitcoin. And I think we have a midterm election year, which is going to lead to the government needing to do things to help the bottom 50% of the economy.
I don't think the average person is ready or acknowledge how much things are going to change in the next 2 or 3 years because there's going to be a rise in regards of robots. I've seen a bunch of tweets the other day with this new robot, which is kind of competing with the Elon Musk idea of selling droids to do normal things, chores in homes, right? So we will definitely see, I agree, in the next 2 or 3 years, this becoming normal. So we will have robots in our life doing stuff that we do now, open the door and, sorting out the washing machine and all that kind of stuff. How do you think that is going to go and intersect crypto? Do you think they will start sending crypto between each other? Do you think they will save in Bitcoin? because clearly they won't have a bank account.
Well, that's the issue, is that what happens with profit margins are the winners are the robots, meaning the robots don't get paid. So the companies win and the people that are making money. As the distribution of wealth gets more massive, there will be taxation on the corporations and the money will go back into the individual hands of the people. There's just no way that this doesn't happen in that manner. If humanoids are actually happening, those are military weapons, which means the government probably owns them. It's very difficult for people to fully grasp. So when people get worried about quantum, I always say, well, quantum will be owned by governments. If it's that powerful, then it can overthrow a government, which means the governments own them. So we're heading to a point, and we're already starting to see it in the US, where they're taking over companies. They're investing in Intel, they're investing in rare earth companies, they're investing in lithium companies, they're investing in munitions companies. It doesn't really matter. We're starting to see the line between the government and the private sector merge together. And Bitcoin is the voice of the people. It is the voice of a decentralized world, and the voters voted for an administration to make this part of it. So I do think the humanoids are just a part of the equation as to what's going to happen. There's still jobs, and for every person that is leaving the labor force because of retiring or because they've made too much money because the assets have gone higher, there's not one to replace them. We have a labor shortage in the United States, and without immigration, it shrinks by about 300,000 people a year purely from demographics. But when you add in the labor force participation rate, which has been declining for a while, we're already headed to a path where people don't need to work. I hate to say that to people, but that's what the labor force participation rate is. If you need to work, then you go into the labor force. If you don't need to work, you leave it. And you might not need to be in it because the government's giving you money, or you might need it because you're married to someone who's making lots of money. It doesn't really matter. There's a reason why people are leaving the labor force. And the reality is there's so many people benefiting from a stock market that's compounding at 15% a year. And their house, which went up significantly until the most recent year, you just have a place where the robots are coming, wealth people are retiring, or they're making more money, and then you're leaving out a lot of the people, and that's who the government is going to have to help through transfer payments, through other items, even if they're one-off. And so all of that system is going to end up in the same way. It's all good for crypto. It's all good for Bitcoin. Everyone just needs to be patient and just realize that this has been going on now since the Bitcoin white paper was written and the iPhone came out not too many months before the white paper came out.
If you do buy Bitcoin for a week or a month time frame, you are a gambler. Like if you invest into an asset, you have to have a long time frame. Otherwise, there's no point. I don't care what happens in October. I don't care what happens in November. Yeah, of course, we can have a laugh. We can share a couple of memes, but that's not what Bitcoin was made for, I believe. And how long do you think we have until the dollar is going to start to say, hey, maybe it's time for me to go and do something else? Because currencies, they don't stick around forever. They have a time stamp attached to them. Do you see any time soon happening to the dollar, or you believe because of maybe the stable coin, it might be pushed further a little bit more?
Every currency in the world is weakening versus Bitcoin, and I think that's the way people should think about it. The concept of the dollar is not the way that I view it. I view the dollar as representing something that a lot of people came to America and came from another place. People that live here, my family's from Holland. I can go down the hallway. Every single person's family is from a different place. The same thing is going to happen in stablecoins. People from around the globe will move in. This is going to be a borderless world for the most part going forward. The metaverse, it's a virtual world. It's completely different than what people are exposed to. If you want to travel the world, you can do it on glasses. You don't need to actually get on a plane to experience all the things, and it'll feel real. Elon Musk has said in the next 2 months we will have you won't be able to tell the difference between what you're seeing as real or not. The reason that's important is because the dollar is just a figment of everyone's imagination. We think of it as, well, is the dollar weakening? Well, when you say it's weakening, you're saying it versus some other currency, which is also being debased. They're all being debased. We're not the only country that has tremendous debt. We're not the only country that has problems. Every country has problems. If I ask people, what's the problem with Europe? Okay, Europe's problems are different than the US, but they both have problems, and they're on the news all the time with the problems that are happening. If I go to China, okay, they have ghost towns, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Every country on the planet, relative to every other country, historically, when you only had the fiat system, it mattered what your currency did because trade changed and capital flows changed. That's not going to matter in the future. There is no border for AI. You have the same AI that I have. You have the same Google that I have. We've already been breaking down the borders that never existed in time before. That's why we have brands like Mercedes and we have brands like Ford. Well, in the case of the internet, you have ChatGPT, I have ChatGPT. It isn't a home anywhere and it's free. This is the way the world is going to work. And so people need to just accept the fact that stable coins and the digital economy represents what America represented of 200 and change years ago. And that's the way I'm always going to view it, is that people are gradually going to look for a place where they have more freedom, where they have a better chance to make money, where they don't have to worry about their jobs and stuff like that. And I think that's what the digital economy offers people.
How far do you think are we from government? I mean, we've seen in some small samples, like for example, in El Salvador, in Bhutan, there's been some places where government and countries have decided to adopt Bitcoin as a standard. Are you expecting many more to follow? Of course, the US has been campaigning throughout the election saying we're going to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve, but we haven't seen that happening yet. So do you think we'll see that coming in the next 5 or 10 years?
Yes. I think it has to happen. Again, the Michael Saylor quote is the right one for people to think about. You don't find Bitcoin, Bitcoin finds you. If people go back and they listen to Michael Saylor's story, and he says, we, MicroStrategy, we're a zombie. Plain and simple. Their business was done. It had been disrupted by by at the time software. He could not compete with Microsoft, and that his business was losing customers and gradually decaying, and he couldn't grow his business. So either you stick with that zombie company where you were successful and you have $1 billion of cash, and he didn't know what to do with it. So he changed his business overnight and he bought Bitcoin. So obviously, every time another company announces a treasury holding strategy, everyone views it on the fiat system as a sign of a bubble. To me, it's a sign of zombies. It's a sign of more and more people that don't have a choice. What are they going to do? If they decide, I'm going to roll the dice, I have all this cash, I'm just going to go take advantage and buy Bitcoin. That's not a bubble. That is actually the opposite of a bubble. That is called we have no chances. So El Salvador has already made that bet. Last weekend, we had the elections in Argentina. Argentine bonds had fallen sharply since August. If you look at an overlay between El Salvador bonds and Argentine bonds, which I highlighted in my YouTube video last weekend, they were basically 1-for-1 until August. And then it broke down. El Salvador's bonds continued to trade higher. Argentina's bonds sold off. The US came in and said, we will give you money, assuming, and you can have it if the election goes the way that we hope. Okay, I lived in Brazil during IMF packages before, and I've seen this happen. The IMF is basically mainly the US, so it's the US giving money to kind of keep from their world getting to be a problem. The issue is now the Argentines locally have an alternative to the Argentine peso. They have stable coins. At some point, whether it's France, Argentina, all these places, they're going to be in that position that if there's a run on the country, which I think there will be, I think we will have runs on countries the same way we had a run on Silicon Valley Bank. Because the downside of stablecoins are instant withdrawals. In the US, they closed the bank. Okay, calm down. You come back Monday, maybe you've calmed down, you won't pull your money out of the bank. Well, still, Silicon Valley Bank taught people that there is no time anymore. Money can leave digitally very, very quickly, and everyone can take their money out without having to actually go to the bank. It doesn't take 5 days. It can happen in 48 hours. That is going to happen. And so I think we're going to start this sovereign side of protecting yourself by adding Bitcoin the same way gold is added. Not for the reasons that gold were added in terms of worried about the currencies and things like that, but actually because stable coins allow people to take money out of the country and move them into a different place. And I think that is becoming an issue. The ECB has warned about it this year, and also China has warned about it. If you ask me to give a potential hypothesis on what's happening with the OG whales, based on everything I heard, I think the selling is coming mainly out of Asia. Yes, there's some Silicon Valley people that are selling, but I think this is mainly coming out of Asia. And if I had to pick a location, it would be China. And the reason would be twofold. Number one, Bitcoin miners are now becoming an issue in the fact that they have all of this technology, which is really good for artificial intelligence, which are data centers and power. And we're seeing those merge. So if the Chinese want to have those miners, then they take and confiscate and they sell out of the Bitcoin. I think that's becoming one issue. But I think the other one is that the Chinese government is really concerned about too many people getting interested in stablecoins and in Bitcoin and wanting the yuan, the digital yuan, to become more used. I just think you're starting to see the sovereign side post the Trump direction. And this has been a big year for this relationship between currencies and the way you think of things. It's why gold went higher. I think going forward, Bitcoin will be added just like gold was added over the course of the last few years.
Talking about China, I'm sure you've seen the news. They want to give content creator a license because they want to control information. Like they're worried about misinformation, and they want to make sure that when someone is talking about something, they have to have some sort of a degree or some sort of practice. Otherwise, they'll get fines, which means, in other words, you won't be able to say whatever you want unless you are compliant, which is not necessarily a good thing. And if I'm not mistaken, the majority of the gold which has been bought lately has been bought by China, like you said, right? So because maybe they want to try, I don't know, and stay with this old system, and we might see a clash from country who has their hands into gold, thinking that's a solution, and maybe the US kind of new wave coming in with Bitcoin and crypto. Maybe we'll see these two clashing one another.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I do think Bitcoin is very quickly becoming a very unique item in decentralization because of it really hurts people in control. And I think artificial intelligence, as you mentioned, with content really hurts people in control. We're getting the decentralized world and these two decentralized forces, both on the money side through stable coins and obviously through Bitcoin, but also on the work side through artificial intelligence. You're actually getting to the point where the decentralization, these two forces are working together. They're causing centralization, at least in AI, with a few winners. But the problem is the entrepreneurs have access to the most powerful tools on the planet. They can build things that will blow your mind. And governments can't control it, and they have to kind of let this happen because it's not any one country. It is literally across the globe at this point. So Airbnb's CEO last week said that they're using Qwen, the AI model out of China. We're getting this kind of bridging of different countries on the private sector doing what is best based on the cost and based again on survival. And that's why I think Bitcoin will be used by other countries, because at some point I do think we're going to have a run on a country where they're going to have trouble keeping the currency that they have from moving into stable coins. And I don't know how you stop that. And when that happens, the only defense that they have is honestly to go move money into Bitcoin. So I think this is going to become something. I don't think gold is going to solve the problem. I think Bitcoin is going to have to be the answer for a lot of different places. So the next few years will be very interesting in terms of the sovereign side. Now that we're through really the end of the trade war, as far as I'm concerned. We've set up the rules. We're restructuring. We're onshoring. And over the course of the next 3 to 5 years, every country will have onshored, which means they're not going to be dependent on every country around the world. But at the same time, they'll be replacing all the labor. So it's going to be a very, very dystopian period for the next 5 years as people adjust to a world that's completely changing from what they knew today.
Is there anything that worries you in particular when it comes to AI taking over so many different jobs?
I don't worry about things, Maurizio. I mean, you can always come up with a negative on anything you want. And with AI, it's no different. My grandmother was born in 1920. By the time she was 25, she lived through the Great Depression, where she didn't have food for her family, in World War II. If that's what we go through from AI, that's what we go through. Human beings have to just accept the fact that you have no control over life. And if you go read books by Marcus Aurelius and you go spend time, you realize this has been happening for thousands of years. I believe the ability for people to live forever is coming. I believe the world of abundance is coming, which means everything will be free and we won't need to work and we can spend time in nature, which is what I'd prefer to do. So I believe there's this incredible world coming somewhere 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, whatever the case is. Maybe it's sooner, maybe it's later. I believe that world is coming. And so I can always worry about things. I'd rather focus on the optimistic side. It keeps you younger and it makes you happier.
There's always a trade-off, and I, like you, like to look for the bright side. So really happy you said it. But Jordi, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Hopefully I can have you back in a few more months and we can see where we are. And even if we don't care, because we are two honey badgers, it's still fun every now and then to see what Bitcoin's doing.
All right, Mauricio. Great to spend time with you again.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Guys, remember, Jordi will be in the comments down below. Go and check his YouTube channel. I love your content. Please keep it up. I'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao. Bye.